This is the Roller Coaster Podcast, and I'm your host, Lucy Q. Life is a wild ride. It has twists and turns. It's scary, exciting, and downright fun. So throw your head back, arms in the air, and come along with me for the ride.
Life is like a roller coaster, baby, baby. I wanna ride.
Recognizing our own self-worth can be a challenge. I know that it's something that I've struggled with, and whether you're asking for a raise, discussing salary in a job interview, or just getting paid what you're worth as an entrepreneur or consultant, communicating your worth is key. Joining me today is Aleya Harris to chat about how we can recognize our own self-worth and effectively communicate our value message to get paid what we're worth. Hi, Aleya.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. So, and I know this is something that a lot of people struggle with, and that's understanding. First of all, there's the struggle of understanding your worth and appreciating and valuing your worth, but then being able to communicate it in such a way so that other people recognize that in us.
Yes, absolutely. Communicating your worth, though, starts internally. So the first person that we tend to not communicate our worth with is ourselves. So when you have an understanding of who you are, and then you dive deeply into it and you say, okay, I want to be this person. And then you go out into the world and you say, oh, well, that was so stupid. Oh, you're so fat. Oh, you're so this. Oh, you don't know. Oh, you're so dumb. But then outside and someone asks you like, oh, yes, I love myself. Oh, yes, queen, I am a star. You're actually very incongruous with your true sense of worth. So stop having performative self-worth and understand that the internal conversation shapes your entire world. When you communicate with yourself, it's very easy to err on the side of negativity because unfortunately, that's what a lot of the messages have been that we've had to internalize. And those negative messages not only affect how we think about ourselves, but they affect how we interact with the world, how we run our businesses, how we run our lives. The first thing that you should do is to excavate. And then the second thing you need to do is to replenish. So when you excavate, it's getting rid of all the crap that's been holding you back. It could involve forgiveness for yourself. It could involve cutting soul ties. It could involve cleaning up the space around you, starting with a new, fresh perspective. It could involve getting rid of those old clothes. Sometimes you got to realize that, girl, you are a size 10 and you look good. So let go of the size 4. It just ain't happening. Right? And love yourself exactly where you are and where you are at. So that excavation, whether it's in the physical realm or whether it's more internal, leaves room for more positivity. If you intentionally communicate positivity to yourself, if you make all this room and then there's just a hole and you allow messages from outside to fill that hole, then you're just going to be filled with more crap that you're going to have to excavate later. You excavate and then you replenish. You replenish with mantras, with healthy eating habits, with new friends, new relationships. Go on a shopping spree to celebrate the body that you have right now and the way it looks right now. Have a boudoir photo shoot. Oh my God, I had a boudoir photo shoot once.
I did that too.
Woo!
Actually, no, you know
Nobody
what?
Tell me nothing after that shoot.
I took it because I'm considered plus size. I've got curves, Some people call me.
I'm a big fan of curves.
Yeah, I got curves. That's just
to get bigger daily.
I used to be like a size 4, but I had kids and life happens and I'm on the upswing to 50, hormones and all sorts of shit happens. And I am who I am. This is it. But I did a boudoir shot and I actually told the photographer, I'm like, I don't want to wear anything.
Nice.
I did nothing. And I mean, sometimes like she would have like positions. She had one of those sheer things.
Oh, yeah.
And and it was scary. It was a little bit scary at first, but I think I downed a glass of wine and said, okay, let's
It's
do
like,
this.
let's do this thing.
Um, it was easier because my husband was there with me.
Mm.
So that was kind of interesting. And then afterwards, she asked me if she could use the pictures. I'm like, yeah. And she goes, no, do you understand what I'm saying? I'm like, yeah.
Oh,
She goes, I'm actually going to post them on social media. I'm like, yeah. And it really created a shift because, sure, I remember when she first posted the picture and I saw it and I'm like, okay, now I got to own it. And I
yeah,
reshared the picture and I said, this is what I did.
this is what I did, and this is me. This is who
This
I
is
am.
me, this is who I am. And it was a very empowering time. I can never say that word properly.
I also can't
Empowering.
say Arnold Palmer without lots of focus. So I understand empower,
Empowering.
one of those words.
It really did, because it was like when I saw that I was then, call it a role model for somebody else that was trying to work up the curve,
Mm-hmm,
you
mm-hmm.
suddenly are like, oh, okay, wait a second. I did something courageous and now maybe somebody else can too.
Right, absolutely. And then what type of courageous things did you find yourself doing in your life after that? Did you make decisions differently?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been on this sort of journey since late 2017 where it's, expansion and stepping into my own self-worth and that. Yes, I'm a slow learner. It took me until my mid 40s to start to realize some of this stuff. And that's why I'm so passionate about sharing it, is because it doesn't make a difference where in your life you realize we all have value. We
Absolutely.
all have unique gifts. We all have our superpowers. And we need to celebrate who we are exactly in that moment, because that's when people fall into that trap of, oh, I'll love myself when I lose that 20 pounds.
Yes. No, you need to love yourself now, not love yourself when.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you love yourself when, then that's not unconditional love. And that just means you don't feel worthy of that love.
Yeah. But you get well, I call it the itty bitty shitty committee starts piping up in your head that says that it's that voice that says things. And it's moving to that space of awareness when that voice starts going off, is having those, as you mentioned, the mantras and what have you, whatever tools you need to silence that voice.
Mm-hmm. And to have it at the ready too, because it's, if you just have this thing on a post-it note that you look at every once in a while, it's not going to be as powerful as something that you pull up in the back of your head. It just comes right there as a ready to use. That's why I like mantras and affirmations, or whatever you want to call them, the thing you say to shut the voice up, because you need it at the ready. Because negativity can feel so much more powerful than that positive voice within inside of yourself. And it's funny because that self-worth we end up basing totally externally. The way that we look, how much money we have, the kind of car that we drive, the kind of person that we married, what our kids look like and what our kids are doing. And that is not self-worth. It's innate in the name, and yet we all seem to miss it, that it is truly about ourselves, coming from inside of ourselves, outside of ourselves.
Yeah, and that's it, because all of those things that you mentioned, the house, the job, the kids, the family, that's outer self.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't give us our worth.
Not even a little bit. It's almost like the things that we get to play around with, on the outside, but the real work should be on the inside. We spend so much time trying to attain and possess and hold on to things outside of ourselves, and so little time trying to attain greater levels of awareness inside, that we have it backwards. And it's like, well, if I just buy that other pair of shoes, or if I just get that promotion, then I'll feel valid and worthy. Well, how about on the inside, if you're like, well, I already feel valid and worthy. Now, how do I solidify this and constantly remember that I am a divine being moving through this planet? And yeah, on this physical level, I get to do things like play with shoes and purses and men. But that's not my purpose for being here. My purpose for being here is to be able to come more fully into myself as a spiritual being. And what does that look like? And how much time out of your day do you focus on that versus the rat race of life? Because if you think like, and I'm not trying to belittle anybody's accomplishments or mine, but if you think about it, you know, that extra money or that next level in your job or those other shoes, how long did that last? That feeling of goodness really last before you were on to the next thing, right?
Yeah,
Not
it's like
long.
when you were a kid and you'd get, you know, new clothes or something for your birthday. You felt really special the first time you wore them to school because it was
Yeah.
like, ooh, you got new shoes or you got new
Mhm.
pants. But then in the next week, it's just like, ah, you got on the same pants you had on last week.
Exactly. And then how long is it before those are in the Goodwill?
Yeah.
However, if you focus internally and you really, that's the hard stuff. It's much harder to uncover the needs of your basic self than to go to Nordstrom and buy some shoes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it is. And it's not, and I don't want people to think that it's, oh, once you have it figured out, that's it. No more
No.
problems. No, I still everything that I'm doing, I'm still questioning, but I find now it's not questions that are coming from a place of judgment.
Right.
I'm asking myself questions that are coming from a place because I am seeking to become the best at what I'm doing, or the best
Right.
version of myself doing what I'm
Right.
doing.
And to enjoy it. I think
Yeah.
some people forget that that's like, we're supposed to be doing that. Like it's supposed to be fun.
Well, it's because everyone's trying to be perfect.
Yeah.
We're
And
trying
there's
to
no
live.
such thing.
No,
There's no
and
such thing as perfect.
that's it. I mean, you got curlier hair than me, and there are just some days you're just not going to look right. There's just nothing you can
No.
do. And
Having curly hair is a humbling experience. If you wanted to know how little control you have, if you have curly hair, you already know. You just don't.
But that's it. It's for the longest while, I used to flat iron my hair
Well,
to
because you
fit in
hair.
and to look like everyone else, because that was trendy. And finally, I'm like, I had enough of this. I had enough of standing under a hair dryer for 30 minutes, trying to fit a mold of what I saw out there that, you know, at the time I was perceiving to be, well, I have to look like that. That's the trend right now.
Right, right. I mean, I don't know if anybody can hear from the sound of my voice, but I am a Black female. And so we have whole situations and historical incidences surrounding our hair, and my hair. I do wear it curly now. I wear it however the hell I want to wear it, basically.
Yeah.
Because I made the decision at the beginning of the pandemic. I was like, well, what am I going to do with this? I'm not going to keep going to the shop. Shop's closed anyway. So what am I going to do? Well, I guess I'll just wear it naturally. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to keep doing this because this feels more like me.
Yeah.
I have a big personality and my hair is big hatchet.
I was
walked up to me. There was a Black woman. She said, you know, I'm so grateful for you for wearing your hair in professional setting. You know, I'm a business owner. I'm talking to business owners all day. And it was that moment when I was just like, yeah, I'm going to keep looking exactly like this, because people need to understand and they need to see that it's okay to be you. It's okay to wear your hair how it comes out of your head, and you own it.
Yeah.
Right. Own it.
And that's all part of, you know, I have, like, I have people saying to me all the time, oh my God, I love your hair. I wish I could have curly hair.
Yes,
like
red curly hair. You remind me of Brave, the Disney movie. I love it.
Yeah. I have a bit of that attitude as well. That just comes with the red hair, I think. But that's what we have to do, is like, sure, you can look at somebody and go, oh, you know, I love your hair, or I love your eyes. I do something. But we have to move from a place of, you know, seeing beautiful qualities in other people to seeing the beautiful qualities that we have in ourselves.
Absolutely. And to realize that your beauty does not like negatively impact mine, right? Like I can be like, oh yeah, red hair, ooh, yeah, pretty eyes, and love it, absolutely love it. And also realize, oh yeah, brown hair, ooh, yeah, brown eyes. I love that too, because that's what I got going on over here.
Yeah, because you've got like you guys are going to have to look at the graphic on the podcast to see a picture of Aleya, because she has got this. I'm going to describe it as a beautiful mane of dark curly hair. Yeah, and so it's and we're going to have to call this the curly hair syndrome episode.
Absolutely.
So going back to the self-worth, once
Mhm.
we've kind of got to that point of where we've recognized it in ourselves,
Mhm.
how do we then start to craft that message that, say I want to go to my boss
Mhm.
and it's like, okay, it's been 2 years. Can we talk about salary? How are some of the ways that we can then pluck out the relevant, what would they be, attributes that we could then present to somebody else so that they see our value? Because that's really risky.
It can be only if you hold on to the way that things are and you're not open to truly changing. And any of those kind of conversations, you need to know before you go in, well, what does no look like? If they say no, what does that mean for me? Am I going to go skulk back to my desk and do the same thing? Am I going to quit? Am I going to file a complaint? What am I going to do? If they say no to this salary increase, what am I going to do? And know that in advance and be very clear and comfortable with either decision. So then when you go in, you're walking in confidently like, yeah, I want this money, but if you don't give me this money, that's okay too, because I already know what I'm going to do and what my next step is. I've already started applying. I've already started my own business. I've already talked to my spouse, and I could just quit today, actually, if I really wanted to, right? So you want to make sure that you, regardless, are taking care of yourself first, because that's your responsibility. Their response is their responsibility. Your emotional reaction is yours. So you have your emotional reaction already taken care of in advance. You already know you're about to enter into a tough situation, so plan for it in advance. And that's one of the best ways to take care of yourself. It's kind of like, if you've ever flown with an infant on an airplane.
Yes.
You don't just go on the airplane, you're like, well, let's see how this is gonna go. I mean, oh, I was supposed to have extra diapers. Oh, I probably should have snack. Oh, I probably should have had a book or something. Oh, that's not how that works. You're like, okay, here's my plain battle plan. Look at me in the eye. This is how this is gonna go down. Like, you are prepared, right? So treat yourself the same way, and the situations that you're gonna go into the same way. You can prepare for the situation, but then take a step back and treat yourself as if you had your own business plan for yourself. In a business plan, you know how your marketing messages, you know your unique selling proposition, you know what yes should look like, because you have your core values already slotted in. You know who your executive team is and who your support system is for a business. Have you thought about that for yourself? What are your core values? What do you stand for? What are your non-negotiables? Who is your support system? Who is that person that is there for you no matter what? Are you acting like the CEO of your own life, where you are making the decisions and you are setting the vision, you are setting the strategy? Do you have quarterly meetings with yourself to check in? Like, hey, it's been about 90 days. Let's check in on these goals. How am I feeling? Have I been kind of like beating myself up and telling myself I look and feel like crap? Because I kind of look and feel like crap. And that level of honesty that you have, what you would have with a board of directors or with a team that works for you, employ that same sense of honesty with yourself. If you manage yourself like you would a well-oiled company, when you get into situations like, how do I ask my boss for a raise? You're like, well, I'm going to come into him and I'm going to talk about my unique selling propositions. I already have a couple year strategy planned out. So if he decides to say no, I already know what direction I'm going in. And by the way, I've already have my girlfriends on deck. They're my support system. They have wine at the ready, right? You plan it out. And I think the bottom line is you're intentional about taking care of yourself and intentional about how you show up in the world. Don't leave yourself to happenstance and expect that it will just happen. It'll just work out. Some things and lots of things work out. Allow yourself to be surprised by the universe, but do your part. You have a responsibility to take care of yourself. That's your first and foremost responsibility of being a human on the planet.
Yeah, you have to prioritize yourself. And we talk about this all the time. It's that self-care component.
Yes, which is more than just bubble baths and bath.
Oh, yes. And that's the thing, is that I used to think that it was those superficial things. I never realized that self-care was something as simple as how I talk to myself, how I care for myself. Where do I put my priorities? You know, I'm a wife, mother. Well, our kids are adults now. But I can remember, well, when the kids were little, I came last every single time. I came last, and it broke me. It broke me. And that's why I'm such an advocate for self-care, because it's not, first of all, it's not selfish, and it's actually critical to your overall health and well-being.
Absolutely. And when you take care of yourself, you're actually teaching your kids how to take care of themselves and how to know that it's important. So don't just say, well, I'm out. Y'all kids fend for yourself. I'm gonna go take care of myself. Sit there and be like, okay, mommy's going to go and have a 30-minute meditation session now, because that's what I need to stay centered. When mommy's done, then we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And would you like to even come with me? Of course, they're going to last for like 2 minutes, right? Why don't you come with me? We'll do a 2-minute meditation session afterwards, so I can teach you how to take care of yourself and to stay centered. Right? So it's not that you abandon everything around you and run for the hills. If that's how you feel, you're already like, you've already crossed over. Like you're far gone, and you really need to bring it back to center. And that might be you. You might be in burnout territory. You might be so low on your self-worth that you don't even believe that you deserve to take care of yourself. Yeah. If that's you, realize that red flag and realize that it doesn't have to be that way. You are loved no matter what. Even if you don't love you right now, you are loved. The universe loves you. So let's take a step back and realize that at the very baseline, you always have that spark of love that you can latch on to begin to love yourself with, even if you don't feel like you are lovable.
Yeah. And I think one of the steps towards loving yourself is being able to forgive yourself.
Oh yeah. I have this exercise that I do with my clients, and now I'm just starting to tell everybody about it, like everybody on podcast, like listen to this exercise. It's called forgiveness and light. So you sit in front of a candle, one that you can smell, like not one of those Bed Bath & Beyond, Bath & Body Works or whatever candle that you're just like, oh, for the love of God. So that you can sit in front of for like 20 minutes and you're going to smell it. And you ask for the light to surround you, to fill you and protect the highest, purest form of light. Then you look in the candle and you speak forgiveness into the candle. I forgive myself for judging myself. I forgive my husband. I forgive myself for hating my husband. I forgive my children. I forgive myself for hating being a mom. I forgive myself for holding on to all of the resentment. I forgive myself for that one time I kicked Timmy down a well, whatever it is. You do it over and over and over. It could be 5 minutes, it could be 10 minutes, it could be 2 hours where you're sitting there, forgiveness. Always remember to forgive yourself for judging yourself, forgive yourself for judging other people. And at the very end, you say, I forgive myself for forgetting that I am divine. After that, you sit there. You should feel a weight lift. You should feel a sense of realignment with yourself and with others, because the amount of resentment that we hold on to, especially as women, is huge. So huge, because we don't voice it, we internalize it. And resentment is me drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Yeah.
Let go of the poison and let go of the venom. Let it into that candle, let it into the light, sit with it, blow out the candle, and let go. Because by holding on to it, the other person doesn't feel it. The situation is over. They aren't getting paid back by you being angry. And you aren't any better or more of a martyr for not communicating the words out, especially to yourself. So I agree. Forgiveness is huge, huge, huge.
Yeah. And you can also take it a step further and have those conversations with the people in your life.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I've been doing is it's not like I plan it down and sit down with my kids and have an intentional conversation, but where it fits into the natural flow of whatever we're talking about. I've asked them about things when they were kids, when I wasn't at my best, because I couldn't always be my best when I wasn't taking care of myself. And I share with them, you know, these are some of the things that I felt that I did wrong or I could have done better. I just want you to know that I'm always striving to be better and do better. When I know better, when I know better, I do better.
Yeah.
And we have those conversations. And the funny thing is that some of those things that I was holding on to, that I thought I had done wrong or not been enough for them, they remember something completely different. And
I'm so glad you had that dialogue with them.
Yeah, like we're a bit unusual because we talk about stuff like this all the time.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good. That's actually healthy.
Yeah, it's always like we're always about growth and struggles and how to manage something, and you know, it's a different dynamic. But it has truly been a gift having those conversations with them, because you know, in a sense, I'm asking for their forgiveness because I didn't think I was who I needed to be. But then their response was, no, you are everything and more.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think that from what I'm hearing you say, just the fact that you have the awareness around it means that you probably were operating from even a higher place than you gave yourself credit for. A lot of people are just kind of like moving through, and they never get to a sense of awareness where they really are looking at how they are interacting with themselves and other people and saying, well, do I like this? Do I not? Did I hurt that person? You know, hurt it. You know, my husband he's a college professor now, but he grew up in a not so hot neighborhood. And like the kind of, I guess the minimum was like, well, he didn't say this, but it was like the dude's, well, I didn't beat you. And, you know, I'm not cussing you out, so you're fine, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, no, we have different levels of minimum here, right? Because they just are not, that was not how they grew up. That was not their awareness level. And so even the fact that you're able to have these conversations with your kids now tells me that you were probably better than most.
I try. We all try. And I love that candle exercise you shared with us. I think that's a really great way for anyone to, you know, if they think that they need to, you know, start examining their own self-worth and looking at forgiveness for themselves and other people. I think that's a really great way for people to start. How can people get in touch? What's the best way for people to connect with you?
You can go to flourishmarketing.co, www.flourishmarketing.co, not .com, that's not me, .co. You can also follow me on Instagram at Aleya Harris, and follow me and my team at flourishmarketing.co. And then also hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm all on the platforms.
Excellent. Well, if you are looking to connect with Aleya, make sure that you check out the show notes. I'm going to have all of her links in there. And Aleya, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a wonderful conversation.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Roller Coaster Podcast. Want to chat or share your ideas about today's show? Pop me an email at hello@therollercoasterpodcast.com. Don't forget to connect with me on Facebook and Instagram at The Roller Coaster Podcast. Our theme song, Roller Coaster, was performed by The Lucky Setback. Audio editing by the one and only Jeff Quigley of Quigley Creative.
Life is like